Welcome to this emergency edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald Quinn, as we discuss LeBron James. I mean, let's be honest. We might do a little power. Power was lit tonight. We might do. I love that. I love the episode of Power. This episode of Power, but we'll put that aside for now and just zero in on why we're here, and that's of course the signing, a busy 24 hours in terms of the NBA, but it is certainly headlined by one LeBron James, who now enters the final chapter of his career and will presumably end his career. You never know with LeBron, but presumably end his career with the purple and gold, the most storied franchise in NBA history, Los Angeles Lakers. It happened this afternoon or early this evening. But in reality, this thing was in place for months leading up to this. And again, I'm not the least bit surprised or shocked by this. You shouldn't be if you followed basketball, if you followed this situation closely. That this was going to be the inevitable outcome to what to LeBron James signing with the Los Angeles Lakers. This was something that was in the works for months, months on months in terms of, forget about the two houses, but the production company, final chapter of his career, the narrative, Hollywood, and Magic Johnson closing the book out, closing it out with meeting LeBron James. Found out that was the first time that LeBron James and Magic Johnson had a sit down meeting, one on one, and certainly Magic made it count. So LeBron James is a Los Angeles Laker, and you know, considering where the Lakers were last night. So this time last night, Paul George spurns the Lakers to the surprise of many, including myself, but to the surprise of many, and goes back to Oklahoma City. And I have plenty on that signing. I found that very interesting. Not that he went back, but the fact that Oklahoma City now, wants to pay into the luxury tax when, well, we'll get to that. I have a lot to say about Oklahoma City and that signing. But as far as LeBron James goes, this is going to be the final chapter of his career. You have to understand that was a decision that is not squarely based on rings and based on championships. LeBron James, first of all, there's no unless you play for Golden State, there's no guaranteed championship in the NBA. Period. There's no place like the places that would have gave him the best chance to win a championship to beat Golden State, putting Golden State aside, and he was never going to Golden State, would have been Boston or Boston or Houston. Those would have been the two places that would have gave him the best chance to upend Golden State. He was never going to either one of those places. And what you have to understand about LeBron James is not a ring chaser. LeBron James does not, and LeBron James said this years ago, a couple of years ago, when they was, when you're having the discussions of greatest player of all time, he said, I don't think Bill Russell's the greatest player of all time. He has the most championships, and I don't think he's the greatest player of all time. So yes, of course he wants to win, but LeBron's smart enough to know that he's probably not going to win 6 championships. He's not going to catch Michael Jordan in terms of rings. So what is the next chapter? Yeah, he wants to compete for championships. He wants to be in a position to win championships. And listen, the Lakers are not done with adding pieces to their team. Now you've seen some minor pieces get added in terms of some of these little 1 year signings that they've done. Cornelius, Octavius, Caldwell Pope, Kentavious. I always mess up his name. I should know. I mean, he's been on the team for this past year. I should know his name by now. Kentavious, Caldwell Pope signs for 1 year. JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson. Those are bit pieces. Those are 1 year deals. Those are 1 year contracts. Guys who, you know, nice players, rotation or rotation players that you put on a team. Those are not the main pieces that you're building for a championship team. But you have to have role players. So those signings are fine. But you still have a Kawhi Leonard that's still out there to be had. You still have a DeMarcus Cousins coming off the torn Achilles that's still out there to be had. So this is not you know a rush process. This is not this is unlike any situation that LeBron has been used to in terms of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Remember, with the Cleveland Cavaliers, when he came back the second time, LeBron was in complete control of that organization and was at the mercy. That the organization was at the mercy of LeBron James. That is not the case with the Los Angeles Lakers. He signed a 4-year deal, 3 years, basically a 3+1, where he can opt out after the third year. At that point, he'll be about 30. He'll be 37 years old. He'll be 37 years old after that third year. 38 if he goes the full 4 years. So he's going to give the Lakers patience, time to build the team around him. Magic Johnson told you repeatedly, said that this was a 2-year, 2-summer progress, 2 year, 2 summer in terms of process, in terms of the free agents. Told you that. So there's no rush to sign this player X, this player, that player. I think, again, myself, and again, a lot of people are down on Kawhi Leonard right now. I kind of understand it, but Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is a top 3 player. You put Kawhi Leonard next to LeBron James, that is a team that can win a championship. You don't need LeBron and 5 All-Stars. This whole idea that you need 10 All-Stars to beat Golden State. Golden State almost lost to Houston. Okay, Houston has 2 All-Stars. James Harden and Chris Paul. I feel like the combination of LeBron, Kawhi Leonard is better than the combination of Chris Paul and James Harden. That's just me. And that was with James Harden not even playing well in that series, by the way. So you put the right pieces together around Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, and Kawhi Leonard, you can beat Golden State. You will be a contender to challenge Golden State without question. So again, this whole idea that you need 5 All-Stars to beat Golden State is not the case. You need talent, but it's more about, again, we've gone over this time and time again. It's more about your style of play, and it's more about who you have in terms of the matchups. You have to be able to match up with their perimeter players. Again, you have LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard. You can match up with their perimeter players. Question for the Lakers is: Do you now the Lakers are going to have some leverage here with LeBron, not with LeBron, with in terms of Kawhi Leonard, because San Antonio, there's not a lot of deals out there for Kawhi Leonard in terms of with San Antonio. It's just not right now. You know, teams are not willing to deal with Kawhi Leonard, deal with San Antonio for a 1-year rental. Kawhi Leonard wants to be a Los Angeles Laker. He's made that clear through his camp, through his peoples, his camp and his management, that he wants to be a Los Angeles Laker. So you're not going out there and giving up, all your assets for Kawhi Leonard for a 1-year rental. Because the odds of what happened to Paul George in Oklahoma City happening with Kawhi Leonard are 1 in 10,000. The odds are against it that will happen. That all of a sudden Kawhi Leonard will fall in love with your city and spurn the Lakers when he's an LA kid and he wants to play with the Lakers. You can risk it, but again, San Antonio is going to get a decent deal for Kawhi Leonard. They're not giving up Kawhi Leonard for just for 20 cents on the dollar. You're going to have to give up 70 to 80 cents on the dollar to get Kawhi Leonard. It's not going to be a situation where with Indiana and Orlando last year, or Indiana and Oklahoma City, where you thought. Now we didn't know Victor Oladipo was going to be All NBA this year, but you thought for the most part that Indiana got fleeced in terms of what they gave up for that deal. So that won't be, that will not be the case for the Lakers in terms of getting Kawhi Leonard. Now the question again, you have two questions with these injured players. Again, Kawhi's injury I don't worry about as much. DeMarcus Cousins is he becomes to me an X factor in this if you're the Lakers because to me again all this is you're pointing to trying to beat Golden State. It's not like Golden State's gotten to a level to where you're not. It's not about building a contender. You have to build a team to try to beat Golden State. It's no longer, hey, we got to build a team to to contend with Golden State. How are we building a team to beat Golden State? And I still say that physicality bothers Golden State, and I still say that DeMarcus Cousins would hurt Golden State if he comes back even 80 to 85%. I don't expect him to come back 100% off a torn Achilles. But if he comes back anywhere from 75 to 80%, that can then that's a whole nother story in terms of in terms of the matchup problems that he can cause because he's really one of the last of the real true big men that can bruise and also put the ball on the floor and even shoot the three and do things that the modern big men can do and stretch four and stretch fives the Karl Anthony Towns the uh, losing Embiid, Joel Embiid, those guys can do. So will the Lakers really make a strong push? I think you can get him on the cheap. I don't think you have to pay a lot for him. I think you can get him 2 years, $30 million, 2 years, 40. I think you can get him 2 years, $40 million. Second year as a team option. He does not have a lot of leverage coming off a torn Achilles right now. So I expect it now. I don't know if the Lakers get Kawhi Leonard, and you should know something about that around Tuesday. I expected this to be quick. I don't think the Lakers are going to let this thing drag out with Kawhi Leonard for long. If they don't feel like the package is fair or the deal is fair, and San Antonio is asking for too much, then they're not going to give it up. Then they'll just move on and wait for him to become a free agent in 2019. Remember, 2019, Kawhi Leonard can become a free agent. Klay Thompson will become a free agent as well. And there are a couple other guys, but those are the two prominent names that will be free agents in the summer of 2019. Again, this was a 2 year process when Magic Johnson was hired, and he told you that this was a 2 year process when he was hired in terms of these free agents. As far as LeBron goes, in terms of leaving Cleveland, he's going now. I talked to a couple of Cleveland fans over the weekend. I want to say Friday. I was out Friday and was speaking to Cleveland fans and I told them that he was leaving. Like I made it clear Friday. Like I told him on Friday, like this is a done deal. It's not. I mean, I've been hearing it for months that his peoples are moving. To L.A. They've already lawyers are already meeting. Like this thing was probably the worst kept secret in sports in the NBA. If you follow the NBA, this probably was one of the worst kept secrets. Everybody likes the drama. Oh, where is he going? And all this nonsense. It wasn't like compared to 2010, 2014. There was no drama whatsoever. It was pretty much clear. I don't know what to say. I don't know why the Sixers even took a meeting. Let me give a memo to the Sixers. If the player who you want doesn't show up to a meeting, that should tell you something that you're probably not gonna get that player. So I think the Sixers and anybody else were basically wasting their time with going after LeBron if he wasn't going to show up, if he was not going to be there for a meeting, especially when he's in the city of that meeting. Like LeBron was in L.A. where the Lakers, excuse me, where the Sixers met with his representatives. Yet he didn't show up to a meeting. Yet there was Sixer fans who thought that he probably had a chance, and it was okay to dream, but that wasn't going to happen. That wasn't going to happen at all. But in the Sixers, I told Sixer fans today that you didn't need LeBron James. You have two budding superstars in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. They'll re-sign Reddick. They will, they lost Bettinelli and Iverson, but those are replaceable pieces. People will want to play for Philadelphia. Free agents will want to come to Philadelphia to play with Ben Simmons. And now you're basically only competing with one other team in the Eastern Conference, and that's the Boston Celtics, who, by the way, have two injured players who have to show that they can be healthy over the course of 82 game season, and Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving. But again, this was inevitable. It was going to happen. The question moving forward for the Lakers is the pieces that you surround LeBron with. You of course have to get shooters. You have to get guys that can spread the floor, that can open up driving lanes. You have to get they right now again, as currently constructed right now. Look at their team. You still have Lonzo Ball. You still have Kuzma. You still have Brandon Ingram. Let's say for argument's sake that Ingram, Kuzma, and a first round pick are moved for Kawhi Leonard. So at that point, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Lonzo Ball, Kentavious Pope, JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson, and then the rest to me will be, shooters. And I don't think they're gonna resign Julius Randle. That's my opinion. I don't think they'll bring him back. They might try to bring him back. I don't, depending on if Cousins will come. Depending, I mean, and getting a big man is easy. You can get a big man. There are 7 footers all throughout the NBA. That's not hard to get in today's NBA. It's not hard to get a big man. So that'll be you get somebody to bang, rebound, play, and block some shots. That those players are easy to find. Just like 3-point shooters are easy to find in today's league. So, but the key for them will be to get shooters because last year the Lakers were terrible in terms of in terms of 3-point shooting. You can't have LeBron James and possibly a Kawhi Leonard and have no shooting because the lane, teams will just clog up the lane and uh, and you don't have any space for those guys to operate. As far as his legacy talk with LeBron, at this point, I don't see the legacy. Listen, he will never be considered the greatest of all time. To me, he will always be below Jordan, and that's not an insult to LeBron. That's just a fact of the matter. At worst, he's the second or third greatest player of all time. He's not. There's nothing he can do in LA that's going to drop him out of the top three, top two, top three of all time. Like he can only enhance his legacy. He can't hurt his legacy by playing with the Lakers and not winning championships. It's not going. I mean, again, I know that's a conventional lazy sports argument to have. Well, his legacy depends on these next 3 or 4 years. And his legacy was set in stone when he won that championship in 2016. When you beat a team that wins the most games in NBA history, and come back from 3-1 in a series where people had gave you no chance to win, including myself, that basically cemented and brought a championship to a city that hadn't won a championship in professional sports going back to when Jim Brown played. What was it, 64? Yeah, 64, 1954. Yes, 1964. They hadn't won a championship in over 50 years. That pretty much, that was his legacy cemented. So there's no chipping away of his legacy. Any criticism that he receives, unless he just doesn't play, unless he just goes to the playoffs and just doesn't play well, unless he just, he averages 10 points next year, which is not going to happen. Unless he just finishes about his legacy as far as if he doesn't win a championship in LA. Now again, expectations in LA coming to the Lakers finals banners. Lakers do not hang Pacific Championship banners. Lakers hang championship banners. So all this, so you come to Los Angeles, you're coming to the Lakers, not the Clippers, to the Lakers. You're coming to win a championship. It's all about championship, and LeBron knows that. Everybody that anybody knows anything about basketball knows that it's all about winning championships in LA. But with that said, Golden State right now remains the team to beat, and deservedly so. Golden State has 4 All-Stars. But again, Golden State almost got taken out by Houston this past year. Now the other big winner in this, there are 3 major winners in free agency. Obviously, the Lakers to me are the number one winner. Winner 1A, I would say, would be Golden State because Golden State now with now the Lakers are better, but Houston for whatever reason lets Trevor Ariza walk for nothing and go to Phoenix for 1 year, for basically for 1 year and $15 million. Now they're probably going to get back Capella. I would have to say that letting Ariza walk, they have to bring back Capella, and I think they will bring back Clint Capella. But I don't understand why you let a guy who is the epitome of a glue guy in Trevor Ariza walk for $15 million. Like, you couldn't give him 1 year $15 million. You couldn't give him 1 year 12 or $13 million. Ariza, again, I remember when Ariza was a Lake in 2009. He was tremendous in that playoffs, especially against Denver and Orlando in the Western Conference Finals and in the NBA Finals. He is a great glue guy to have. A guy that is fearless. A guy that will guard the other team's best perimeter player. A guy that will do all the little stuff, all the dirty stuff. That's a guy that you need to win a championship. I do not understand um, why Houston let him go like for nothing, basically. Just let him walk away. So Golden State is a winner from that standpoint. Also, remember this. Remember Golden State, and you can criticize Golden State all you want about the four All Stars. Kevin Durant signs for 2 years, 61.5 million. He'll get 30. He will get 30 and a half this year. That means Golden State, he left basically $5 and $6 million on the table. That means Golden State can go out there and get a Jamal Crawford or Avery Bradley, even a Dwight Howard if they want to. Somebody of that ilk. They can get multiple guys. They can get a mid exception level guys. They can get guys on the scrap meet who will go and play for them. And their team, they will have a better team this year than they were last year. They will be better next year than they were this year. They're going to fix that bench, and they're going to go out, and players around the league want to play for Golden State. You're going to get shot. I mean, listen, if Oklahoma City does what they're supposed to do, buy Carmelo out. Carmelo, that'd be a good move for Carmelo Anthony to go with Golden State. That's if Oklahoma City does what they're supposed to do. So to me, Golden State definitely was a big winner in terms of the free agency. They lose JaVale McGee, no big deal. I know he had a couple of moments in the finals over the past couple of years, but they had too many big men as is on their team. Getting to Oklahoma City, I was a little bit. So I had to say I was a little bit surprised about the Paul George staying with Oklahoma City. Now, again, I heard reports and rumblings over the past couple of days that he was starting to warm up to warm up to staying with Oklahoma City. Um, Russell Westbrook threw a party for him last night. So things were starting to go in that. You were starting to hear things of that go in that direction as far as him staying in Oklahoma City late last night, even before the announcement. But listen, Paul George could make up an upwards of $290 million over the next 7 years. I'm not going to knock Paul George. The easy thing to do would be knocking Paul George. I'll say this about why I think Paul George wanted to didn't want to come to LA. I just think that he did not want to deal with the pressure of playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, even with LeBron James. So to me, Paul George is at a place in his career to where he doesn't care about being a man, because it's clear that Russell Westbrook is the best player on that team. He left Indiana, left $220 million on the table for to get moved out of Indiana, to basically force Indiana to trade him last summer. He left again a $220 million super max extension on the table. So that, to me, he doesn't want to be the guy anymore. He's fine with being a number two, and I think Paul George can be a number two on a team that um, competes for a championship, depending on who your number one is. I think Paul George could be a perfect number two on a team that could win it, that could challenge for a championship. He's not number one on a team that can win a championship. Also, but this why if you're an Oklahoma City fan that I would be just annoyed if you rooted for Oklahoma City over the past 6 or 7 years, and let's say the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook era, James Harden, when those guys came along, you have to be you have to be ready to just kick your television right now because back in 2012, Oklahoma City had three of the best young players in basketball in Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden. Three guys who were 25 and under, and probably three of the top at the time. I would say three of the top 20, 25 guys in the league. And they didn't want to fork out $7 million for the James Harden contract. Remember, James Harden, they offered James Harden 4 years, $53 million. He wanted 4 years, $60 million. They didn't want to pay into the luxury tax back in 2012. So they decided to trade him, and the rest is history. And that was the beginning of the end of the Oklahoma City Thunder being a possible team of the decade. So now, if you pay in a luxury tax in 2012, you keep a team together that would have won multiple championships. Those three guys, and I don't care who the coach was. They're winning multiple championships with James Harden. James Harden was the difference in the series in 2012, Lakers and Spurs, especially against the Spurs, and for them getting to the finals. So you're not willing to pay into the luxury tax to keep three of the top 25 players in the league, but you are willing to into the luxury tax for a team that is maybe a second round team at best, is a middle of the pack team in the Western Conference. Middle of the pack. I mean, Oklahoma City. What is Oklahoma City? What is there a third? Maybe a fourth seed, maybe a third seed, maybe. Maybe they can get to the number three seed. But then, I mean, they're no closer to a championship now than what they were at the end of the regular season. Especially if they bring back Carmelo Anthony. That gives them no flexibility to make any other moves. So again, if I'm an Oklahoma City fan right now, I don't. You gotta be scratching your heads because now they're gonna be well into the luxury tax. They're gonna be paying $240 million in terms of into like think about that. They're gonna have to pay $240 million with the salary cap combined with the going over the luxury tax. $240 million. And at this point, listen, this is one thing about the NBA now in 2018. If you want to compete and win championships and compete for a championship, your owner has to be willing to pay over the luxury tax. Golden State and Cleveland pay over the luxury tax. Houston's going to have to pay over the luxury tax. The Lakers are going to have to pay eventually over the luxury tax. You cannot compete, win a championship without paying, or compete for a championship without paying over the luxury tax. Eventually, the Sixers, when those guys become free agents and go for eligible for extensions, Ben Simmons, Fultz, those guys, they're going to have to pay into the luxury tax. So that's just the way it is in today's NBA. So again, the idea that Oklahoma City is now willing in 2018 to pay into the luxury tax versus 2012 is a mystery to me. And remember, back in then, they were selling out the building. They were making money hand over foot. It wasn't. They just did not want to pay into the luxury tax for whatever reason, and it cost them championships. So, Los Angeles Lakers land the big fish. LeBron James being is a Laker. He will again presumably finish his career with the Lakers. He Now, his son is, I want to say his son is about to turn 14. So that is that is his master plan that he wants to play with his son. Eventually, he wants to play with his son uh, in the NBA. So, again, that remains to be seen. But presumably, you would think that LeBron James will finish his career as a Los Angeles Laker. I don't see LeBron James being a guy that will hang on if his play drops conservatively. If he like, I don't see him being that type of guy. He's not going to hang on for records. He's not going to hang on. Matter of fact, he won't. He might not even have to. He's on pace to pass Kareem. I want to say the next, if he stays healthy for the next 3 years, by age 36, that he can pass Kareem for all-time leading scorer. So, he has a chance to be the all-time leading scorer in NBA history, has a chance to be top five in terms of assists in NBA history. We will see if he can get ring number 4 or possibly 5 with for Los Angeles. Again, I don't think that the Lakers are not done as far as getting pieces, adding pieces to the team. They have a lot of valuable trade assets with Kuzman, and Kuzman. Their first round picks are not going to mean as much because they're going to be they're going to be a playoff team next year. So those will be late. Those will be picks in the late 20s. But you can still get some. First round picks are still somewhat valuable assets, trade assets in the NBA. So we'll see. We'll figure out. We'll see what happens with that. Um, Again, the major winners in free agency are the Lakers, Houston, Golden State, the Lakers, Golden State, and Oklahoma City. You have to say Oklahoma City to a lesser extent because if they lose Paul George, then you're talking about them being in a position where they probably would have to move Russell Westbrook because that team would have been a disaster moving forward, being over the salary cap, and having nobody outside of Russell Westbrook. Now at least you can try to build around Russell Westbrook and Paul George for the next couple of years. Again, they're going to stretch Carmelo's. They're going to have to buy out Carmelo Anthony, stretch his salary out so they can gives them some salary cap flexibility to go out there and get some decent pieces. They can't go out there and get major pieces, but some decent pieces in order to try to compete with the likes of Golden State, Houston, and now the presumably the Los Angeles Lakers. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. We'll be on later on in the week to talk about episode 1 of Power. I'm out.